and this may suggest that the male suitor is also confined by custom and tradition. Lastly here, notice Mr. Pontier's reaction to the birds. He is so disturbed by their noise, he's unable to read his newspaper. Unfortunately, his wife's actions will have a similar impact on him. They will serve to disturb him and offer discomfort and disruption. The bird motif is again offered in chapter 4, when Chopin invokes the bird imagery to describe the typical Creole mother woman on page 16. Chopin writes, "In short, Mrs. Pontier was not a mother woman. The mother woman seemed to prevail that summer at Grand Isle. It was easy to know them, fluttering about with extended, protecting wings when any harm, real or imaginary, threatened their precious brood. They were women who idolized their children, worshipped their husbands, and esteemed it a holy privilege to efface themselves as individuals and grow wings as ministering angels." The mother woman is described as fluttering about with extended and protected wings. The imagery is clearly of a mother bird, but more particularly of a hen, it seems, using her wings to protect her brood, her chicks, her children. We're told that the mother women are everywhere on Grand Isle that summer, and we're also told that Edna is definitely not a mother woman. The implication is that Edna does not possess these motherly characteristics, that she doesn't have the typical mother-child bonds that one would expect. Here the motif underscores the distinction between Edna and the other women in her community by setting her apart from most of the other women. Additionally, the mother woman's actions are described as, quote, fluttering about. So what imagery comes to mind when one flutters about? In fact, what is the connotation of the phrase to flutter about? It's certainly not soaring, it's certainly not flying, two terms that would typically be connected with a bird. But instead, to flutter about seems to indicate some sense of aimlessness, a lack of direction, a lack of purpose. Might Chopin be punctuating a theme here? The mother hen is devoted to her precious brood. In fact, the paramount purpose in her life is the protection of her children, her chicks, her brood. And that's at the expense of her own interests, her own desires. In fact, those interests and desires of hers seem to be subjected, whether they are oppressed or repressed or both. Chopin's theme here is that whether it's a result of her own desire to fit in to the social norm of the time, or whether it's the rigid constructs of social custom and tradition which force her to submit, in either case, at least according to Chopin, the typical American woman prior to the turn of the century lacks her own identity and her own individuality. That is subjugated, lost, buried, a casualty of her devotion to her children and her husband. Edna awakens to that understanding and comes to some realization that that is the case. And she struggles and strives to achieve some sense of self, some individuality, some meaning and purpose in her life. The bird motif appears again later in the novel. as Edna has begun to really develop her own identity and her own individuality. Additionally, she's begun to keep the company of a well-known New Orleans playboy named Arobin, and she's befriended an older, very eccentric woman named Mademoiselle Reisz. Both actions have earned her the disapproval of not only her husband, but her friends. In chapter 27, page 138, Edna speaks to her male friend, Arobin, about this eccentric friend, this older woman, Mademoiselle Reisz. Edna says, "She says queer things in a bantering way that you don't notice at the time, and you find yourself thinking about afterward. For instance, when I left her today, she put her arms around me and felt my shoulder blades to see if my wings were strong," she said. "The bird that must soar above the level plane of tradition and prejudice must have strong wings. It is a sad spectacle to see the weaklings bruised, exhausted, fluttering back to earth." So Mademoiselle Reisz is clearly concerned about whether or not Edna's symbolic wings are strong enough to, as she says, soar above the level plane of tradition and prejudice. The bird motif here, it seems, serves as a vehicle for Chopin to foreshadow, potentially, the difficult struggle yet to come for Edna, as she tries to transcend these rigid constructs of tradition and develop her own identity. Reisz proclaims, "It is a sad spectacle to see the weaklings bruised, exhausted, fluttering back to earth." That potentially is foreshadowing Edna's fate, what is yet to come for her. So in conclusion, the bird motif appearing in Chopin's The Awakening serves several functions. In the first instance, in chapter 1, the colorful parrot reveals details about Chopin's protagonist, Edna Pontier, and her relationships with her husband and potentially a male suitor on the horizon. In the second instance, the bird motif of the mothering hen continues to flesh out the protagonist, but this time through contrast by setting her apart from the other women, the mother women within the Creole society. And additionally, Chopin supports her main theme about women's struggle to develop her own identity and her own individuality. And in the last instance, it is the bird motif that Chopin uses to develop the foreshadowing that she offers about what is potentially yet to come for Edna, the difficult struggle that Edna faces as she tries to soar against the level plane of custom and tradition, I think she says. Okay, so there you have it. That is an example of a literary commentary. You notice I think I made 3 references to the novel, and I actually quoted them. And so that's what you need to do in your literary commentary. Okay, I hope this serves as a good example for you. Maybe some comic relief, I don't know. I hope you enjoy the rest of your summer, and I look forward to seeing you all in class when school begins. Thanks a lot.